Okay, I want to thank everyone for coming out on what I have learned is a great day of weather for you guys. So it's nice for you to share this day inside with us. I have so little time, and I could talk about these projects forever. When Susanna and I were talking about what to show, we didn't want to stick with video games. So I want to show some projects from the lab that I run at USC, the Game Innovation Lab, and bear with me if I start with one that's actually not a video game and is also a real-world game. This is a game that we built at the School of Cinematic Arts in order to really rethink in many ways, the entire curriculum of the incoming students, the incoming freshmen for the school. The school has a long and sort of storied tradition. It's been teaching film and media studies for 80 years, and many people have gone through the program. And of course, we teach people the history and theory of media across a broad spectrum. As Susanna mentioned, she's part of the IMAP program there, and I teach in the Interactive Media Division, which is one of the newer divisions of the school, and our focus is on digital media. And so we're even adding more to this complex world that students are expected to engage with when they come to the school. It can be quite confusing, and sometimes it can feel quite siloed. So students who are interested in production of film and television are in one division, and students who are in animation are in another, students who are in interactive, yet another, and so forth and so on. And we wanted to actually work against that sort of specification and really bring students together from the first moment they came to school. So we decided to create a mystery. When students first got to class this year, they started receiving mysterious messages from something called the Reality Committee. At first, they just started asking each other, what is this? And then one day there was a flag hanging in the courtyard. You can actually see it there with a strange logo on it. And in the Facebook group for freshmen, they started commenting on it. What's that weird flag? Does anybody know what it is? Did anyone get this card in your orientation pack, et cetera, et cetera? And if they followed the clues, they made their way to a game office where there were student workers who told them that they were representatives of the Reality Committee and asked them to swear an oath of DIY media, where they would promise to not do anything stupid like use fire or drive in cars while shooting out windows or things that might get them hurt, but that they would engage in media making every day and that they would start now. So they got these cards, and on the cards were prompts to make creative projects. And so they actually just sat right down in the hallway. There was about 120 students registered in this incoming class, and they started actually creating these creative suggestions, if you will. So on the cards are things like make a 30-second short. And then there are connectors that help you to say what that short might be about. For example, about justice here, involving a moral dilemma, involving breaking a rule, involving land and a car. And also, you'll see this orange card on the left, involving a student named Madeline Berger. Each student had in their pack a different collection of cards, so they had to cooperate with each other to create these prompts. And also, they had to find the students whose names they had to include them in their deals. This is actually a quite simple deal. They started getting complex right away. So you can see that this is a music video that involves, my goodness, a whole lot of things, and a whole lot of orange cards of other students. And this deal was actually created within the first couple of weeks of the semester. Mind you, these are freshmen who've never met each other before. I'm just going to hasten this up. And this is actually the project that was created based on that deal I just showed you. I want to remind you they're using all their own equipment. This is not a class. This is completely voluntary.
We touch, I feel a rush. We clutch, it isn't much, but it's enough to make me wonder what's in store for us. It's lust, it's torturous. You must be a sorceress, cause you just did the impossible. Gain my trust. Don't play games, it'll be dangerous if you f me over. Cause if I get burnt, I'ma show you what it's like to hurt. Cause I've been treated like dirt before you, and love is evil. Spell it backwards, I'll show you. Nobody knows me, I'm cold. Walk down this road all alone.
These are the actual students, not professional dancers.
I've chosen to go, frozen in snow. I show no emotion whatsoever, so don't ask me why I have no love for these.
I'm not gonna
blood-sucking soft.
Have you watch the entire thing. It's actually online at reality.usc.edu. There are just under 100 projects that these students have made in the 10 weeks that the game has been running. And of course, this is in addition to their other classwork, right? And this is in addition to that sort of anxiety-ridden period of when you first arrive at school. This is another example of a project where they were prompted to create character artifacts that told a story. And in this case, they told the story of a young journalist in Vietnam writing home to his family and his girlfriend about something that he'd seen that he didn't know that he should report. And so it's a really fascinating project, one which I would actually have expected graduate students to make, not undergrads in their first month of school. All of the projects are submitted to the site, and they are prompted to talk to one another and form collaborations on the site. And they did actually quite quickly form little production units and teams. And every student involved in a deal gets all of the points for the deal. So it was a really interesting mechanic in that sense, is that within these creative teams there was no competition. And so why were they doing this is a question. And what we decided to do was not have prizes per se, but experiences as the driver for motivating students. So at the end of each week, the top scoring players would receive more cryptic messages from the reality committee telling them to arrive at certain places for their reward experiences. For example, here are a group of students sitting and speaking with Henry Jenkins, a well-known scholar about convergence and transmedia. And on the right, another group of students who arrived and found a town car waiting for them with a bullwhip and a fedora. And it took them to the 30th anniversary screening of Indiana Jones, where they saw Steven Spielberg and Harrison Ford answering questions. They were quite excited. Here's another group of students who were told only to bring a folded origami crane to a particular location where they could exchange it for conversation. And at that location, they found John Singleton, writer-director of Boys in the Hood, many other films, who was there and spoke with them about his career and how he got started. Here they are with Dante Spinotti, a cinematographer of most of Michael Mann's films. He made them kneel before letting him into his home in front of the 8.5 poster that he has in his entryway. All this is to say that this is about experience. This is about creating community from day one for this project, and I think it's really working. These students are posting and thinking and learning to work together in a real and dynamic way from day one. They're taking control of their own educations, and that's what's really exciting for us. I'm going to move quickly because I have very little time here to talk about another project that we're doing in the lab. This is a project, specifically the one I'm going to talk about is Application Crunch, but it's actually a suite of games called Collegeology about helping kids who are in underserved communities understand the college process, strategize about it, and really prepare themselves through playing games to be better applicants. Here's a little video of some of my grad students talking about this.
Application Crunch is a card game for high schoolers to show them the process of college applications.
The college application process is a system, and this game is about teaching that system. It's about planning ahead, it's about deep strategy, and it's themed as a high school student trying to get into college.
You get dealt a role at the beginning of the game, what kind of student you're going to be helping for the course of this game, what their financial background is, what their interests are.
It's fun, it's engaging, it's a different way to sort of come to understand the system rather than sitting back and reading a pamphlet or a book or a website where they're just trying to absorb information. This is a way they can really engage with information. Our target audience is
High school students who are in underserved schools.
they have college counselors, but college counselors are spread too thin.
Their parents may assume that they're getting college counseling.
And these are kids with the grades to get into college.
They don't have mentors who can tell them about the process or encourage them. So they need something like this that will give them a little bit of a step up in terms of knowing how to think about it, how to talk about it, and encourage them that it's really something that they can do.
So this game actually was originally intended to be a digital online game, and in fact we are creating a Facebook version. You can see an early interface design for the Facebook version here. But what we actually found in our process, which always begins with paper prototyping because you can do it so quickly and you can get so many iterations done and you can surface so many questions before you engage with the technology, that we found that the kids that we were working with really loved sitting around playing these card games. So we decided to release it in two versions. One is actually a commercial game that can be purchased and played in school or with a family, and it's a way of sort of raising the question of college. That isn't that terrible thing that happens where you say, hey, what colleges are you thinking of applying to? And the student you're talking to just gives you a blank, basically shuts down. I don't know, whatever, nothing. But when you're playing a game, there's this sense that the knowledge of, should I ask this teacher for a letter of recommendation is a natural question to ask, and it's no longer part of that power situation when counselors or teachers or parents ask students about their plans for their life. So we found that we think that the Facebook game will have greater reach, obviously, but we also found that the card game has a really great personal touch. The next game I'm going to talk about very quickly is a personal project of mine, which is an adaptation of Thoreau's Stay at Walden. And this is a game that is, I would call, a little wacky. And so it is the idea that we can actually take from the text of Walden a system that Thoreau explains. He actually lays it out in the first chapter about how he felt we ought to live. And by building that system and allowing people to play in it and experiment with it, we can actually perform at least parts of the experiment ourselves and come to think about it and ask, I think, better critical questions about whether it is a good system and whether it's something we might want to incorporate in our own lives. I have a little bit of footage that I'll show very quickly.
In 1845, Henry David Thoreau went to live in the woods of Walden Pond. He went to live deliberately and to conduct an experiment in self-reliant living that has inspired generations of readers. Walden, a game, will recreate the world of Walden in a 3D environment, where players can follow in the virtual footsteps of Thoreau and conduct their own experiments in living deliberately. The gameplay of this virtual Walden will embody the nature of the experiment that Thoreau set for himself, to live as simply and wisely as he might, as a part of nature and not apart from it. Walden, a game, will bring the writing of Thoreau to life in an immersive experience, where his work will be encountered by a new generation of readers in a form that will capture their attention and imagination.
So just very quickly, the underlying system models what Thoreau lays out, but the physical system of the game, the virtual world, is also built on real-world data, and the inhabitants of the world are culled from close reading of the text. So it's based on the plants and animals that he speaks about in the text, because that is actually the kind of nonfiction that we were interested in creating. And last, and I just have very little time here, is a game that I've been working on with Bill Viola. Some folks may be aware of Bill's work. He's just a preeminent media artist, and his work, though, doesn't, when you first think of it, these are some images from his pieces, immediately say, oh, I should make a game out of that, right? For those of you, some people are familiar with his work, I can tell. Bill was very interested in using game technologies to communicate some of the ideas that he's been so passionate about throughout his career. And when I became involved, we really talked about what could the gaming form bring to the question of the spiritual journey, what could be the game mechanic of enlightenment in a sense. And we really talked about his pieces in terms of temporal pacing and what the game world could take from those in the way we built the space. We looked through an archive of work that he provided us, and from that archive we rebuilt a game world that referenced at every level his pieces. And I'm just quickly going to start this. There's no way we could watch the whole thing, but I'll quickly start a little piece from it and talk over it. And we decided upon a very simple game that didn't provide you with a lot of guidance, just enough to get you going on your journey. And this journey is really about looking deeply, and it's about a sort of cyclical process of loss and rebirth, and about connection to this world that presents itself as a real world, and another world that it perhaps is laid over. So because we have such little time, I'm going to fast forward. I apologize, Bill. So just to show you a little bit of some of the core mechanics, one of the core mechanics of the game is called reflection. And when you choose to reflect, you choose to give up your control of your vision of the world. And in that giving up of control, that's when the world reveals to you this other vision. And this is an example of that in the game. Player can take back control at any time. And the act of reflection actually begins to reveal other opportunities in the world, which I won't spoil. The game is actually just opened in Copenhagen yesterday, but it showed in New York and in London and various other galleries around the world. So with that, I'll end so we can have some time to speak. Thank you.